when we recognize ourself, our being, we recognize the unborn, undying, unconditioned. The difficulty I think many of us have in spirituality, we've had it for centuries and centuries and centuries, is we keep trying to make that which is conditioned, body, mind, personality, we keep trying to make that into something unconditioned. You will never do it. The closest your mind and your body will ever get to being unconditioned is when you're dead. So if that's what you think nirvana is, when the coffin shuts, you will have achieved it. Unfortunately, you won't be around there to notice it, So we can waste immense amounts of time trying to uncondition that which is conditioned, that which is by its nature conditioned. Conditioned in this sense doesn't mean it's not a negative thing necessarily. It's not a bad thing, If we all became suddenly completely unconditioned, we would all fall over dead. Our heart would stop beating because it's conditioned to beat. And if we took the conditioning out, it would stop doing that. You would stop breathing. All of your biology would completely just kind of go like, what do we do now? And it would just cease. So your entire physicality is conditioned to the hilt. Evolution has worked extraordinarily hard to make sure that you're unbelievably conditioned from top to bottom, right? Everything in your mind you learned. Anybody that's had a child knows that they didn't come out of the womb talking about higher mathematics or telling stories or being able to have long discourses and conversations with you. All that capacity had to be learned, had to be acquired, right? Learned and acquired is a sophisticated word for conditioning, programming. It's like your computer. Your computer is relatively useless unless you program it, unless you condition it. It has lots of potential, possibly, but it has no actuality unless you program it. So we all get programmed, right? That's neither good or bad, it's just what happens. We all get programmed. Most of us, however, don't get programmed simply like a computer, do we? A computer, the programming that goes in all has a function. And it supposedly has a useful function. And it gets things done or saves time or helps you perform a task. I think all of us know human conditioning is not quite that precise. There is that kind of conditioning that helps us get things done. We've learned how to communicate well. There's lots of conditioning that can be very useful. But then there's the other 80-90%, which is what causes us so much strife and so much sorrow. Part of that conditioning, of course, is our whole notion of ourself. It's programmed in, And so we can waste immense time trying to uncondition that which is conditioned. The most you can do with the conditioned is to modify the conditioning. So when we see that what is conditioned, its very nature is conditioned. Bodies are conditioned, minds are conditioned. You're conditioned culturally, intellectually, sociologically. Lots of different kinds of conditioning we get. Some of it's useful, some of it's useless. Some of it makes life a bit easier. A lot of it makes life a whole lot more difficult. But when we can see that just as it is, then we're free to look deeper. When we look deeper, we realize that all this conditioning, all the conditioned, is actually happening in this vast expanse of unconditioned consciousness, unconditioned awareness. So your everyday, ordinary awareness that everybody is partaking of at this moment, hearing my voice, listening to whatever you think about it, how you feel, what your sensations are, the conditioning, that awareness, that awakeness that takes all that in, that awakeness itself is not conditioned.